Welcome to this news in our podcast. My name is Martin, and I'm in Sign Capsules to talk about disputed news in the UK, to explore the stories and give it a little opinion. Although the news sites out there, if it is BT News, several people in news epics our lives is suddenly reported. And generally, as many of us already know, we are underrepresented in the media. It's a news podcast is our effort to try and address the balance. So first story is top KC claims assisted dying bill is not compatible with the Human Rights Convention. A top lawyer claims that the assisted dying bill breaches the European Convention on Human Rights, ECHR, because of inadequate safeguards for people with disabilities. Tom Cross, KC's review of legislation comes as the government is expected to publish the impact assessment of the bill, which is due to have its final stages debated in the comments on the 16th of May. Mr. Cross is one of the counsel for the Equality and Human Rights Commission and fellow barrister Ruth Kennedy have warned that the bill breaches Article 14 of the ECHR, the provision that everyone's rights are protected equally and would unfairly discriminate people with conditions such as autism, bipolar, and depression. However, allies of Kim Ledbetter, who brought forward the bill, have dismissed the claims, pointed out that the legislation has been carefully looked up from lawyers. Source goes to Ms. Ledbetter, told the Independent, they're wrong, I can't show governments their good advice, but it goes without saying that lawyers have examined the bill in minute detail and would have to any possible EC issues. Legal advice was commissioned by the Christian Institute, one of the number of charities and campaign groups looking at potential going to the courts to prevent the bill coming into the law. It's passed into Parliament. It's passed by Parliament. It follows a testing committee stage in the House to amendments where scores of amendments put in by MPs opposed to the bill to add further safeguards rejected. Ms. Ledbetter has pointed out that she accepted legislative 393 amendments from MPs who were opposed to the bill. The row saw another low. MP as sure who had originally intended to support the bill. This is fundamentally flawed in a detailed legal opinion. Mr. Cross and Mrs. Kennedy said persons with disability of the above sort are in significant situation from persons who do not have such disabilities because they, all else being equal, are morally disposed to the claims that would wish to die required under the legislation to be eligible to be assisted to die. They are on that basis more vulnerable both than persons whose disability not of that sort, and than persons who are not disabled at all. Accordingly, there are well-established principles required to be treated under the Article 14. No discrimination unless there is justification not to do so. However, without justification, the legislation fails to provide an adequate safeguard to address the great vulnerability. They went on, in our opinion, if I to treat these cases differently, in each remnant, for the right to benefit a breach of the ECHR, we consider that on the basis of application for judicial review in respect for legislation when it could be brought to alternative declaration of incompatibility with the Human Rights Act 1998. And the persons or body falling in the concept of everything for ECHR purposes could bring a complaint about the legislation in the European Court of Human Rights. Susan Carver, Deputy Director of the Christian Institute, said that they've advised should make MPs think again about document legislation. It would be interesting to see if the argument is carried forward and how the bills get to the House of Lords, but it wouldn't for its discussions there. I think we'll see the bad part, like I've said many occasions, then we'll see the bill passing to law some shape or form in the next couple of years. And it will then be up to the relevant authorities to make sure human rights pledges are about legislation compatible with those things, opposed to then creating that into a minefield as I've said several episodes before. I don't think that one's quite prepared. I don't think anything will quite prepare us in advance Following this service actually comes into being, not just the legalities of people, the teething issues that are going to exist. I think there's going to be a long painful road ahead. Best by plans. Person. What story? It's from independent. It says, but the environmental car scheme becomes like inviting welfare. Wow. Motability scheme which sees people with disabilities as a car using their benefits. It's frozen scrutiny of its profits. 12. They paid out 100.8 million in salaries in 2024, with I expect to receive a total of 747,000. The scheme has grown significantly, with over 815,000 users, raising questions about its affordability and potential misuse. As the company slashes $5 billion from the rise up at Motability CEO. Andrew Miller says most of its cars are economy, not luxury models, and some users are entitled to use the benefits in this way. Says the scheme, which grew its revenue to 6.9 billion in 2024. It moves thousands with eligible users each year, and now for every £1 spent for disability allowances, £1.50 is returned to UK government. It's up to the understand where the scrutiny is probably coming from. But the reality is, this is a deeper in the modern capitalist world. If you're a CEO of a certain caliber thing, you've got to pay top dollar in terms of. That's just the way it is. In terms of the scheme itself, critics of the workforce, they will always use the debate argument against the scheme. In recent years, the cost of getting and maintaining mobility vehicles has increased for disabled people. The options, adaptations, etc., and so forth, those that need adapted cars since thousands. So just someone buying their Motability free, it's the upfront cost of thousands to get the car. It's cost adaptations. And it's not cheap. A cheap scheme to be involved in. Yes, it's subsidised to an extent, but also talked about a group of people who very often, more often than not, live in poverty. And yes, the scheme is about affordable access to vehicles, but with all the adaptations that some people may need, it's affordable in inverted commas. And as CEO of the group there said, several people every year more people being removed, denied access to mobility vehicles or denied access to. It's what basically means is being denied access to a certain right of mobility in the first place in order to be eligible for the mobility scheme, and we've seen the costs. They're just the ones that are scheduled to come, but in the past decade and a half, a lot of people that really needed mobility and had their own vehicles to assist in mobility were restrictive cars, and a lot of, as because that people we know about a lot of those cases were people desperately needed access to those vehicles. This argument about multiplities a lot of the time is from people that don't really understand the scheme or really understand the financial implications of having a Motability come. The story from independence is kind people said to lose thousands of benefits still cannot read details of Labour's welfare reform plans. I need stories about the Lib Dem MP, Steve Darling, who is registered blind, who's raised the issues of thousands of people with disability who face losing their benefits under Labour's £5 billion welfare reform still cannot read the details of what ministers plan to do almost 2 weeks after Working Veterans Secretary Liz Kendall involved to a Green Paper on welfare reform. Accessible version of the document is still to be made available. Department of Work and Pensions has promised the audio versions for blind people by all of the accessible forms will be ready in early April, but with the consultation underway, there's few that the result available to the moment. Lib Dem MP Steve Darling is registered blind, uncovered today. He back saying it was nothing short of a disgrace. James Stanley, Executive Director of Strategy and Disability Equality, Jody Scope, said this is one of the many things which are wrong about these catastrophic proposals. They're some of the biggest cuts to disability benefits on record. Yet nearly 2 weeks after they were published, so people were facing thousands of pounds a year in support being ripped away still aren't able to read the full plans. The government needs to rethink the proposal and start listening to and working with disabled people. The vow has resolved parliamentary questions by Mr. Darling, who's a Lib Dem Work and Pensions spokesperson, answered by Welfare Minister Stephen Timms. Using accessible versions will be published in due course. The Minister went on to say we published a Green Paper at 4 accessible versions to put detailed information about matters subject to consultation in the public domain. At the earliest opportunity, the government has also vowed to produce accessible versions of the subsequent impact assessment. The government's impact assessment suggests that 250,000 people, including 50,000 children with people into poverty, as a result of the changes. Some of these are more. There, 340,000 people registered blind or partially sighted in the UK who cannot read the details of the documents yet. Lib Dems have accounted the government at risk of breaking their own regulations on accessibility. Part of the requirements for accessibility bodies are that you must make a website or mobile app more accessible or make it perceivable, operatable, understandable, and robust. You need to include an updated accessible statement on your website and going to say you may be breaking the law if your public sector website or mobile does not meet accessibility standards. Accessible versions of documents include large print, font 16 or greater, braille, printed tactile documents, audio, B3, DAISY, audio only, audio description for multimedia, electronic, books of Word, or other process files, PDF, DAISY, audio and text, HTML, and closed captioning for multimedia. For multimedia. Well, the story was not entirely surprising. It's really powerful. Top providing accessible materials for a major consultation isn't good enough, and this kind of just shows how contradiction this whole approach to say is really is there. And really how haphazard this whole process has been really. And I hope someone actually goes further and kind of takes them to task on this if they don't actually accessible documents, because this really isn't acceptable to be able to be undertaking such a massive round of major cuts can affect so many people's lives, and a whole swathe of sectorless people are left unable to even come to the table, so to speak, because they couldn't have access to the information. So hopefully these changes. Next story is in the Metro. Hilton Hotel has launched a pop-up TV on my customers at the 5-star Waldorf Hotel will be served by staff who have learned disabilities. The special event was hosted as part of the Disability Week, special educational needs disabled centre. Staff at the historical hotel yesterday, guests were served a menu of freshly cut sandwiches and warm scones by service including Samming's rest time syndrome. Sam told Metro finding work was really difficult for me. So when I started my role he was in, it was such a relief. I've always wanted to work and be around people. The article goes on to say he joined the Hotel Support Down Syndrome Association, work free to the program, where his skill set and aspirations were matched. Having worked 1 day a week, Sam, who lives in Chalk Farm, now has a permanent food and beverage assistant role, following outstanding feedback from guests and colleagues. The hotel chain wants to demonstrate support for members of the Zen community and highlight a representation gap in the industry. Cool. It's a really good story, and in the comments that people are being fed rhetoric, but they're not worthy, taking the resources could see a major employer offering opportunities to our community, and only part of that. Schemes like this aren't one-off. Aren't one-offs, and now all the employees take notes and carry on the work that companies like this start, so that they carry on schemes like this. Because they're not one-off. It becomes, obviously, the dreams that becomes commonplace. And companies offer long-term opportunities. They offer the flexibility that midterm people need to stay in work if they're able to do so. In never changing world. The only thing that appears to be constant is that the best society is to adapt to the needs of just people, to come down their needs. But this is something that steps be that way, and that things can change, and that how many times we hope to do stuff to change. You might say that story and it's sort of a good note. So again, hope to see you again.